books are not going away? I have 5 reasons. Actually, I should say why books are not going to go away quite yet. Most knowledge is still housed in printed form. And it's going to take Google and others many years to produce quality copies, not just copies, but quality copies, and to sort out the legal copyright issues that are involved with using electronic copies. It's a mess right now. It's frustrating for all of us, particularly historians, but also when you talk to Google and Amazon and the others, there are a lot of issues there that need to be sorted out. The second is that the number of people who can read is increasing faster today than at any time in history. There are more readers today than in all of history up to 1950. Over half the world is now literate. All were trained to read using books. Think about that. We're now witnessing about 1.5 billion people moving into the middle class around the world. People in India, China, and elsewhere. And that means people who can read and are economically able to buy books, which are still cheaper than electronic copies. Even in places that do not have reliable sources of electricity, which you do need, for digital anything, right? Particularly in parts of China, Vietnam, Sub-Saharan Africa. It's a real issue. You talk to somebody in Ghana, and they say, well, our electricity goes down 2-3 hours a day. Oh. So we've got some issues there that are constraining, holding back the diffusion of digital books. The number of books, paper copies, there appears to continue to expand in number. In the U.S. alone, it's doubled, almost doubled per year in the last several years. A lot of that's because of self-publishing as well. Books continue to grow even though book sales, I should say, continue to grow even though, on a worldwide basis, even though the number of books per capita is declining. The reason that's the case is because there's other phenomena of more people coming on stream who are literate and able to read books. Oftentimes in other countries, we're pretty well saturated in this country. In fact, our per capita consumption is declining, but in other parts of the world it's actually increasing dramatically. So who's making all the noise about books disappearing? I'm observing several communities. Let's begin with nervous book publishers. We've been talking to them all this week, haven't we? And, including many at this conference. I know I talk to them also, not only as an author, but also as a friend, and in some cases in my capacity at IBM. They're preparing for electronic books, and I'm sure that we'll have a lot of discussion about that today. Talking to editors this week here at this conference, what I'm hearing is that they're doing dual publication programs where your book comes out in paper and in electronic, and they're also beginning to tell their authors, try and treat your chapters as if they're standalone products, because instead of having a 9-chapter book times 2 electronic and paper, maybe we have 12 products here, or 24 products. So they're thinking differently. They're very concerned because what happened to the music industry was what Steve Jobs did there. And nervous is the right word to use. I've only talked to a couple who are in a panic. They're uncertain about their future. Media experts are the second group. They have a history of declaring the death of books, and they've been wrong so far. We know that no new technology supersedes any other unless 2 or 3 conditions exist. And I tell you this now, not as a historian, but as an IBMer who has also been a product manager. First, whatever replaces the earlier technology, it's got to work on the earlier one. Maybe Kindle will meet that requirement. Hasn't yet. It's got to be less expensive, or not any more expensive to own and operate than the prior technology. And it has to make possible new functions not available before. You don't need to make all 3, but you've got to hit 2 out of 3 to get the conversation going and the altered behavior. And it's painfully slow. The third group are librarians under pressure to migrate to online everything, to save the cost of space, purchases, and due to their emerging beliefs in the intrinsic value of the digital library concept. I don't want want to paint them as the evil people who destroy books, and we've all seen the books that come out studying what happens with newspapers and magazines. They have legitimate concerns here that are just as profound for them as book publishers have and as media experts have. Those are three very articulate, concerned, committed, involved communities that are very active in this space. I won't repeat the story that I told in the perspectives, but you've seen it there, but it did cause a lot of tension among librarians because what I suggested there, and I'll just repeat the recommendation, is that we historians need to get into the conversation in a positive, open manner with librarians to say, look, if you're going to unload journals or you're going to get rid of books, let us help you make that decision. Because in some cases, we, as historians, need the ephemera. We've got to see the little piece of paper that Benjamin Franklin held, just so we know whether the side glasses worked or not, right? In other cases, it doesn't matter. But my recommendation to historians was, be part of the decision process. Go down to your library, talk to your deans, get involved, and if you don't, then you deserve to have your books taken out for budget reasons, what have you, and then shame on us for not having collaborated with our library colleagues, pick and choose what goes. Otherwise, you come back every September, you see empty shelves from what happened over the summer. All right. So don't panic. I don't believe books are going to go away. I've got 15,000 in my house. My wife would like about 14,000 to go away, but they're not going to go away. For the rest of our lives, they're going to be part of our world. They're going to be part of our world for two reasons. Because it's going to take a while to create replacements in electronic form. And secondly, we have our own habits. Those who wrote those books will probably want to continue to use books. Write your books in such a way that they can be published, both electronically and in paper. The book is only one form, to use a technical term, one platform, one configuration for organizing information and conversation and dialogue. Electronic forms will allow you to have others. One simple example is that instead of having a footnote that cites an article, maybe you have a footnote that has a piece of video. I've never done that before, but I expect that in my next book I will have to do that. Simply because the publisher is going to want two products at the same time. And then, as I suggested earlier, muscle your way into decision making with respect to the fate of the books at your institutions. Fourth, I would say leverage electronic tools along with paper books, not only to learn how that technology works, because it is different, but also because you're going to find that increasingly a lot of your material that you're going to need for your own publications and for your own teaching are going to come from that world. So start getting familiar with it before you have to get familiar with it, before you have to use it. Because you're smart, you'll understand the implications involved and how best to exploit that. And that's very consistent with what academics have done with information technology over the last 40 years. People love to complain about professors not using technology. It's nonsense. You go on campus, they all use laptops, they all use word processors, they all use internet. You know how to do that. So just embrace it, get to understand it. So if for no other reason than to know thy enemy. Finally, remember, everything changes a lot slower than the experts think. In my 35 years at IBM, I can tell you that everybody stands up and talks about things happening, and it's 4 to 7 years before it does. So on that note, I'm going to stop.